What's up, guys? Welcome to this video about profit margin in gold making. This is a video that I've been planning to make for quite a while. I've written posts about this topic in the past because it's something that I feel quite strongly about, as some of you may be aware. But a lot of people focus on maximizing profit margin in World of Warcraft, and I don't necessarily think that makes so much sense, and I wanted to show you why, because I think this is something that you can really get quite far by visualizing and showing you some examples about why I think this is the case, that profit margin just doesn't matter. In most cases in WoW, it's not going to be the most important thing to focus on. For many different reasons, but primarily we're going to focus this, of course, on assuming that you are relatively new to gold making. You're starting out, you're taking your first couple of steps. So we're going to dive into some illustrations here. So this one is very simple. This is some random process. It doesn't matter what it is, but let's like this is your ability to make gold, and the size of your arrow indicates like how much gold you could potentially make from this part of the process. The point here is that if you want to increase the amount of gold that you make, the amount of gold that comes out of this end of the tube, then it doesn't really matter to optimize here, because you have loads of room here and you can't get it through this bottleneck. So this is a theory of production. There are multiple theories of production, but there's one that says that in any process, the only improvement that really matters is at the bottleneck. So this is the only thing that really matters, is to increase the size of this opening, because you're already doing the right things in the first two boxes. So how would this look like in gold making? Well, maybe these are some of the things you could optimize based on in World of Warcraft gold making, or in any endeavor. You could optimize your gold per hour. You could optimize your gold per gold invested, your profit margin. You could optimize for your capital in terms of, well, I should probably have named the speed of sales, because that's what we're really looking for. Maybe you should optimize for your sale rate, and as we'll see on the next example, we will. But the point is, you need to identify what is actually the limiting factor for making gold for you right now. Is that the amount of time you spend on gold making? Is it the amount of gold you have available to invest? Is it the fact that you need higher profit margin items or higher raw profit items? Maybe that's the limit. Like, you have loads of time, or you're using your time effectively, and now you just need to increase some other size. There can be many different ways of doing this, but for most of you, you will be in the case where the amount of capital, the amount of gold you have available to invest, is going to be what's limiting you. And now I want to look at an example of some math to show you why, if you are in that position, you should not focus on optimizing your profit margin. Your profit margin doesn't really matter much in WoW, and I'll get to why. But let's look at an example. What if you only had 10,000 gold to invest? Wow, my face is in the way, huh? Well, so we're going to look at the simple example, or some math. We're going to look at an example where you start with 10,000 gold. You reinvest, every time you get sales, you reinvest it in the same market. And we're going to see how your total gold and your auction house value looks after 2 weeks. We're going to compare 10 and 20% sale rate, which means that 10 or 20% of your auctions sell every day. And we're going to compare profit margins ranging from 10% all the way up to 50%. And I've found for me, my average profit margin is generally in the 20 to 30% range, with some markets ranging higher, some flipping markets, some crafting markets going higher, and some trending lower towards the 10-15%. So this is like the typical range you'll be in when you're doing gold making in WoW. Whether that's crafting or flipping, that doesn't really matter that much. The profit margin is generally about the same. Outside of some rare outliers that really like break the bank, but they are sort of irrelevant here. So this is how the liquid gold looks after 2 weeks. The blue one, this bottom one, this is if you're selling 10% of your auctions every day. And then the orange one is if you're selling 20% of your auctions every day. And of course, as obviously, the higher your profit margin, the more gold you have after 2 weeks. I mean, you don't have to have a PhD in math or economics to understand that. But the interesting point here is that if you're comparing a 50% profit margin item that you sell, you post 10 and you sell one of them every day, to a 10% profit margin item where you post 10 and you sell 2 of them every day, assuming they're worth the same amount of gold, you'll end up with the exact same amount of gold after 2 weeks, assuming you can reinvest everything. And at every point, if you have a higher sale rate, you're going to have a lot more gold. So the point here is that optimizing for profit margin at any given sale rate level isn't going to have a huge effect. Like the difference between 10% and 50% profit margin after 1 or 2 weeks of doing this, it's not that large. It's larger with a higher sale rate because you have more time to compound, which is the other side of the coin here. When you get your gold back, you can reinvest it in something that's, in this example, we're assuming you're always making the same profit margin. So the faster you get your gold back with 30% extra, the faster you can spend it and then make it back again with 30% extra at this level, for instance. And that's really the power here. That's what you want to optimize when you're starting out. You don't have a lot of gold, so you need to get it back so you can invest it again, which means that you really, really want to focus on things that sell quickly, because otherwise you'll just get left in the dust by people who are optimizing for selling quickly. And that also means that if you want to spend time on something, you want to spend more time on things that increase the sale rate, increase the number of sales per day. And obviously we have one for auction house value as well in this example, and it's similar. But the difference isn't that big here. It's smaller on average compared to the gold, but that's sort of expected essentially. Since you're selling a larger proportion of your auction house value in this example with the higher sale rate, it's going to climb relatively slower a little bit, but it's still better, but not as much. I mean, if you're comparing at 50% profit margin, you'd end up with double the auction house value after about 2 weeks. At 20% or at 30% profit, it's about 50% more. So it's still generally better to just focus on sale rate. It's going to leave you with more items available for sale and more gold. That's really what you need to do, or if you want to make a lot of gold. Of course, there can be many other things that limit you. As you go farther up the scale, it's going to change. It might not be capital anymore. I think that in most cases, there's going to be one of two things that's going to be the limiting factor. It's either going to be the amount of gold, the amount of capital you have, or the time you have available. There's gonna be a point in the middle where none of them is really the limiting factor. But you'll very quickly, once capital is no longer an issue, you'll very quickly get towards where time is the limiting factor. At least if you keep scaling up. If capital is the limiting factor, then you need to focus on sale rate. That's the way to make gold. Focus on items that sell quickly. Once you've maxed out on all of the items you find that sell quickly, then you add items that sell more slowly. Then gradually you'll get more and more gold, and then you'll be eventually at a time where the amount of time you have available to craft, to post, to do things on the auction house is going to be the limiting factor. And what do you want to do then? Then you want to shift the markets you're doing. And you want to start going away from focusing on sale rate, because at that point, it's not so important to get your gold back quickly. Because you're not going to care about that, because you probably still have, like I do, I have multiple rounds where I have 2 million gold. It doesn't matter if I spend 500k, I don't need it back within the day, and I don't need it back within the year even. So what I focus on is raw profit per hour, because you don't actually need to care about profit margin either, because in World of Warcraft, it's very easy relative to the real world to get into a point where you have effectively infinite, or not infinite, you don't actually have infinite amounts of gold, but you have so much gold that it doesn't matter if you spend it super wisely. It doesn't matter if you generate 10% profit. In the real world, capital is a very limited resource. And opportunities to invest are limited. So you need to focus on maximizing the return on your capital, because most investors, most real life investors, they don't have a lot of capital. So they want to get the most return on their capital, because that's the limiting factor for increasing their riches, essentially. But that's usually not the case in WoW. So you don't need to use that metric at all, and you shouldn't. And when I say raw profit per hour, I mean the amount of gold you'll get per hour as a profit. It doesn't matter if that's like, if you're making 10k gold for something that takes 1 minute, but you have to spend 100,000 gold to craft the item or whatever, and you're just making 10,000 gold profit. That's 10% profit margins. Not that good, but it's 10,000 gold profit for something that takes a minute, which is really good. That's an insane gold per hour if you compare that to popular farming methods, for instance. So that's what you want to focus on. And that means adding a bunch of items with slower sale rates and with higher prices. Generally, you just want to go for higher value items. And this is why, of course, BOE flipping has typically been the end game, flipping expensive battle pets as well. But at that point, you just want to focus on selling items that will give you a large amount of gold in profit per sale. And then you'll gradually spend more and more of your time looking for those deals. And the reason this is the optimal way, and this is also why being on multiple realms is so good for high level gold makers. Because at that point, you won't be able to find enough of these kinds of deals on one realm. So you want to be on multiple, because then you'll just be more efficient with your time. So that's sort of the general idea. For most of you, the most important thing is this one. Just focus on sale rate. And you can even see this in TSM. You can take a look at this in TSM, which is so nice. If we go into the game, well, didn't I have another? Well, I have one here. You can go into TSM. You can open up a random, well, not this one, but Tome of the Still Mind. And at the bottom of this tooltip, there's a region average daily sold, and it says 174 items. So on average, you can sell 174 of these per day. And there's a region sale rate of about 0.16, so 16% of auctions sell. So this is a really good item if you can craft this for cheaper than 130 gold, which is the current minimum buyout on my realm. Then this would be a perfect item for entry-level gold makers. Just absolutely perfect, and something to really go for. If you're like me and you're already very rich, then this is a terrible item, because it's like 15, 20, 30 gold profit per item. It's nothing. It takes a lot of time to craft the inks. It takes a lot of time to craft these. Not worth the time at all. So that's the essentials, or that's the theory. So guys, did you enjoy this? I know I did. So I'm planning to do some more videos like this, where I talk about and show you with some illustrations, and sort of leverage my actual background in industrial economics, which I have a master's degree in, to show you some of these concepts and how they might or might not apply to WoW. Because people think a lot of weird things about gold making and optimization in games, and I wanted to share my thoughts on it. And my thought process, and why I prioritize the markets I do, because I think that'll be very interesting. So if you enjoyed it, make sure you like the video, leave a comment below if there's something you'd like me to talk about in particular, and make sure you're subscribed to the channel to get notifications when the next video goes out. Thank you so much for the support, guys. Goodbye.